The premise of this talk, I had an outline, is to go through how we got to this point, the key elements of this outbreak, how it built, and believe it or not, how we see the decline. We are in a decline phase. And then a little piece about climate change and what to expect, and the other insects that perhaps we're not paying attention to that are very active in our forests and will also affect hydrology, our land stability, and our forests in the future. So to start off on, we hear a lot about climate change and, we set up our forests with fire suppression, and that's how we got this outbreak. Well, it's actually a combination of three really important factors: the environment, the insect, and the host, that sort of presented this perfect balance. Any one of these parameters could have moved this outbreak forward, but we happen to have all three occur at the same time, and I'll explain why. So first of all, it's Dendroctonus ponderosa. Remember this insect. It has a lot of cousins, you could say, in the Dendroctonus genus that can cause as much destruction as this particular insect did. The outbreak's now affecting approximately 13 million hectares in BC, and that is kill, not annually mapped mortality. So we have, let's just say, a lot of dead timber out there. About 77% of our pine will be dead by the end of this outbreak, and that's mature pine, which is basically the predominant makeup of our forests in BC. It's a predominant species. Another very important point to note is it's gone beyond where we thought, as entomologists, this insect should go. It's gone to higher elevations, it's gone farther north, and it's gone east. It is typically a Pacific Northwest insect. We've had a threefold increase in what we call susceptible pine. This means our forest has aged on the landscape. It hasn't been burnt up, it hasn't been logged, it hasn't been killed by some other means. So it was waiting there for something to turn it over. It needed to be regenerated. The insect came along to increase this rate of rejuvenation or regeneration. And unfortunately, Alberta may also be regenerating its pine in the future. So where is our susceptible pine? This is maybe a slide that not all of you have seen. This is the current mountain pine beetle outbreak. This little arrow shows where it's going into Alberta. The yellow is the lodgepole pine, and this is the jack pine. That's why our federal government is a wee bit concerned. There is no gap. Mountain pine beetle produces very aptly in jack pine. It doesn't do as well in the hybrid jack lodgepole pine, but it can move across Canada, and right now there are no impediments to this movement. Climatic conditions are conducive that it could move across Canada. It won't be easy, but it could. So we have had warmer winters. What this means also, and I really want to get into the insect part, is typical brood mortality, which is usually 95 to 99% of the brood dying every winter. This hasn't been occurring, simply because we've had milder winters. So everyone, get your pencils, do a bit of math. Each female can lay 80 to about 150 eggs. Typically, as I said, 97% die. This will keep it at a static or declining population. We've had, over about a 3 to 5 year period, over 50% of beetle broods surviving. There's another key part of why we have this outbreak. It's dispersal, colonization, and production, all of which can be extremely detrimental to this beetle. If they disperse and can't find suitable hosts, they die. If they want to colonize and the trees are all about 60 or 70 years, they'll push them out with resin flow, turgor, or in essence be lethal to the insects. This hasn't been the case. Our trees are old, they're weak from drought stress, and because of our summer warm temperatures, they shut down physiologically earlier in the summer, thus letting the beetles colonize. And then again, the production, they produce a lot of brood, and these brood are successful. So what this graph is showing is here is the mortality line that we need to keep a population in check. From about 2004 up to about a year ago, we were well under this 50% line in terms of mortality. This red line means that we're about approaching what we need to start pushing the population down. Kamloops, we don't have an estimate for this year because we couldn't actually find enough green attack because we don't have many mature pine left in that area. But since we are in the decline phase, these natural mortality factors have a chance of kicking in. And we have a lot of predators and parasites, and they're very beautiful. The cucujids are one of the main parasites of all bark beetles. We have a lot of birds. If you walk through these dead stands, they're not dead at all. We have wood borers, lots of woodpeckers. There's lots of life still in these forests. These parameters will bring that collapse to our outbreak. And we're at 7.8 million hectares. It's pretty much in every pine stand within the province, except for some in the far north and a few, let's call them refugium, in the Kootenays. Another map that probably isn't typically seen within groups is the whole of the range of mountain pine beetle. People always ask me, well, aren't the states having an outbreak too? Well, of course they're having an outbreak. It's just they don't have as contiguous areas of pine as we, lucky enough in BC, have. So through the Pacific Northwest, all these pockets of red are very active and raging mountain pine beetle outbreaks. What's of great concern in the States is it's killing off their white bark pine, their high elevation pine, which is a very important species for wildlife and a number of reasons. And, it could very well go extinct because of this outbreak. So where are we? Here's the big outbreak of the 80s. We reached our peak. It's pretty much agreed that the flight of 2006, which is seen by the mapped area in 2007, was the peak of the outbreak. Huge flights that year. We had a very, very sharp decline in the last 2 years, which you can see we went from 10 million down to about 7.8 million hectares mapped. So we're on a steep decline. Wow, 7-odd million hectares. That's still huge. So we're not out of the woods yet. What I think will happen, and what most of us agree on, depending on, again, summer temperatures, winter temperatures, is we'll go down, but we're going to expect some little surges on the way. How big, where, and etc., we don't quite know yet. So in conclusion, we have other diseases and insects out there. Most of them are on the increase. Fir and spruce beetle are on the increase. We should wake up to that fact and do something about it. What's good for mountain pine beetle, the same parameters are in effect for these other insects. Spruce beetle, we have large outbreaks in the south and building in the north. Just to prove a point that they can do it too, we had spruce beetle down in the Ashenola attacking lodgepole pine. It was kind of like, ha ha, I can do it too. So what have we learned and where are our opportunities? Well, climate change really affects insects. So we're going to see very odd things happening with insects, probably more outbreaks, more strange biological effects, both in fire and outbreaks. It reinforces to think about natural disturbances and how we can better manage our forests. Perhaps 40-hectare cut block rules and squares aren't the way to go. Maybe landscape, large cut block strategies might be better. Ooh, redneck loggers coming out in me here. And look at what's under the trees. If you do too much management, you may not have a lot of diversity in your stands. But if you look through the deadness, there's usually new trees coming up. Thank you.